What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus check update, the stimulus package update, what's going on in the world, the stock market, money, investing, and pretty much everything you need to know about, including the debt limit ceiling, which there's major news on here today and yesterday. The debt limit ceiling is this major thing that they have to come to an agreement in Congress and particularly in the Senate, or else the US government and the Treasury will have the first ever default where the Treasury and the government will literally run out of money, and anything with having to deal with money from the government will run out of money. President Biden and Bernie Sanders, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen have said that payments to Social Security could be at risk, payment to the military could be at risk, child tax credit payments could be at risk, bond payments could be at risk, the full faith and credit of the United States could be at risk if they don't pass a bill on or before October 18th, which is a little bit over a week away. So literally a government default for the first time ever. So we have to pass a bill. And up until last night, the Republicans were refusing to do this, which is where we had a major turn of events. Which is when Senate Minority Leader of the Republicans in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, offered a deal to the Democrats in the Senate to resolve the debt limit impasse. The problem with this deal, the problem with this deal is that it's only a temporary band-aid. It's only a debt limit increase or a ceiling increase for 2 months. That's correct. This is a temporary band-aid that will raise the debt limit ceiling for 2 months until December of 2021. Nonetheless, they have to do this. Temporary or not, this will kick the can down the road for 2 months, but it will raise the debt limits, at least to avert the crisis for now. But the bill has not been wrote yet. They have not passed the deal yet. They have not passed the bill yet, which kind of presents a little bit of a problem. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell, the debt ceiling hike talks spill over into Thursday. And now we're starting to see a little bit of even some Republicans starting to say, well, we're not so sure if we want to maybe go through with this deal. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham opposes this short-term debt hike and warns about being potentially held hostage to the Democrats and to the filibuster in the future. This is as of 10 p.m. last night. So already we're starting to see some complications. Here's what Republican Senator Lindsey Graham has to say. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican from South Carolina, says on Wednesday night that he opposes a short-term debt hike being hashed out by Senate leadership, and that the Republicans, quote, shouldn't be held hostage due to concerns that Democrats could change the filibuster. And remember that yesterday we had the Democrats actually considering this. Lindsey Graham, the top Republican on the Senate Budget Committee, is the first Senate Republican to speak out against the tentative deal that is being worked on by Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell. He says, quote, I do not support the Democrats' reconciliation package, the stimulus package, and I do not support raising the debt limit to make that level of spending possible. But remember that the stimulus package, the reconciliation package, the Democrats say is fully paid for. Nonetheless, he says he doesn't support it, and he doesn't support that level of spending to make it possible. If Democrats want to raise the debt ceiling, they can use the reconciliation process, which is the process on how they're going to pass the stimulus package, Lindsey Graham says in a statement. A spokesperson for Lindsey Graham confirmed that he was opposed to a short-term debt hike to December. Mitch McConnell, as part of the offer from the Republicans, said that they would help expedite the reconciliation process if Democrats decided to raise the debt ceiling on their own through the budget rules that let them bypass the filibuster. He also said the Republicans would let the Democrats pass a short-term debt hike as long as the short-term extension was to a specific number and not a day. Democrats, after a closed-door meeting, vowed that they wouldn't use reconciliation, but indicated that they will take up McConnell up on his offer of a short-term debt hike, with Congress currently having until October 18th to prevent a debt default, according to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Minority Leader Mitch McConnell are now haggling over the size of the debt hike. So details are still being discussed. They'll also need total buy-in, unanimous consent from their colleagues to speed up a vote on the eventual agreement and to sidestep a 60-vote procedural hurdle. If they can't get that deal, 10 Republicans would need to vote with Democrats to end debate on a short-term debt hike, even though they could all vote against it on a final passage. So even though Mitch McConnell has offered a deal to the Democrats, and and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and the Democrats have accepted this deal, they have made a deal. They're now working out the details of this deal, and other Republicans are now starting to come out against this deal. So even though they have a deal made, they still have to pass a bill, and we're already starting to get cracks in this deal. Yeah, so we'll see what happens today if they can pass a bill. Remember, they have to pass a debt limit deal to raise the debt limit, or else we will have a default of our of our U.S. government and literally will run out of cash. We do not want to see that happen. They need to do that one way or another, or else worst case scenario for our economy. Now, House Democrats are calling for taking away the debt limit authority from Congress and actually giving it to the Treasury Secretary, which in this case would be Janet Yellen. It used to be Steve Mnuchin. The problem with this right now is that this could spook Republicans, and well, Republicans could, like Lindsey Graham and other Republicans, this could spook them away from their current temporary deal. So, and remember, we have a lot of Democrats saying they should just get rid of the debt limits in its entirety. The problem is that type of talk right now could really spook the Republicans, and they could take away their temporary deal. And if they take away their temporary deal, then we're back to the country could default in literally like a week. So we have this deal hanging on by a thread, and who knows if it's going to actually lead to a passed bill. Yeah. Yeah, so, and Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer, man, they have this really like love-hate relationship. So let me know your thoughts. Do you think they're gonna get past a deal to a bill passed? And remember, this bill passed is just a temporary band-aid. It's a 2-month band-aid to raise the debt limit. Yeah. I read a lot of your guys' comments from last night that says, yeah, it kicks the can down the road. It's a temporary band-aid. It's a lot better than what we had. Don't get me wrong. It sure prevents default and the full faith and credit of our government. We definitely need it. We didn't want to see Social Security payments not get made, child tax credit payments not get made, literally government default, AAA credit rating go bye-bye, bond payments not get paid, tell the world that we can't pay our bills, like all that stuff. Like, so yeah. So here's Senator Bernie Sanders. So I'll keep you up to date on that. We'll probably, if they can get past that, we're probably going to have a vote today. If they can get past that, and if the deal doesn't fall apart, I wouldn't be surprised if Republicans don't, like Lindsey Graham, don't try to find cracks in there and And I wouldn't be surprised if it's really right now is the time for other Democrats to zip it. And again, I say that not being a Democrat, not being a Republican, now is not the time to say, hey, we need to get rid of the filibuster. Hey, we need to get rid of the debt limit. Now is not the time. When you have a deal on the table, now is not really the time to, slap the Republicans across the face, right? Now's the time to just be like, all right, thanks. Let's pass this temporary deal, and then the day after you ink the deal, then you can go back to fighting amongst each other. You know what I'm saying, right? Like, pass the deal, and then you guys can go back to battling each other, right? You don't want to spook the other side. You can do that the day after you pass the deal. Like, let's protect the full faith and credit of our government, Social Security payments to seniors, 65 million child tax credit payments, which literally some children depend on to eat and have food and not be out on the streets. I mean, there are a lot of people that literally need this money to survive. Seniors need this money to survive. So let's take care of that first, and then you guys can talk about getting rid of the filibuster, which it's a long shot, and getting rid of the debt limit, which really could be done, but it's not going to be done here in the next day or two. So let's pass the temporary debt limit bill first. Then you guys can discuss that amongst yourself afterwards. Let's not let this temporary deal get through. And as much as it's a temporary deal that I'm not the biggest fan of, we do need this temporary deal, this 2-month deal, to go through, because we need the 2 month. We need the time. We really do. So with that being said, here is Senator Bernie Sanders, the person in charge of the $3.5 trillion stimulus package. That's really not going to be $3.5 trillion anymore. But we're just going to call it that because it's just been called that forever. We don't have a number on it. It's probably going to be somewhere in the $2 trillion range. But we're going to just call it a $3.5 trillion stimulus package for the time being. But it's probably going to be a $2-something trillion stimulus package. So here's the Senator Bernie Sanders on the reconciliation package, or the American Families Plan, with the latest details on it. Remember, he's the person in charge of this stimulus package.
I want to say a few words about the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill that a number of us are fighting for. And I'd also like to make some brief comments about what Senator Manchin said earlier today. First, let us be clear. Poll after poll, including polls in West Virginia, show that what we are trying to do in this reconciliation bill is enormously popular among the American people. But it's not just the American people who support what we're trying to do. 48 out of 50 members of the Senate Democratic Caucus support the bill, and 210 members, about 96% of the House Democratic Caucus, support the bill. And by the way, the President of the United States supports the bill. And while we're at it, let me tell you who is vigorously opposed to this legislation, and I think it's important that the American people understand that, because this is the corruption of American politics. The pharmaceutical industry is currently spending hundreds of millions of dollars on lobbying, on campaign contributions, on advertising to oppose this bill, because they do not want to have us lower the outrageously high cost of prescription drugs in America. The health insurance industry is spending a huge amount of money because they do not want us to expand Medicare to cover dental, hearing aids, and eyeglasses. The fossil fuel industry, the coal companies and the oil companies, are spending millions of dollars despite the fact that the scientists are virtually unanimous in telling us that we must end our dependence on fossil fuel and move to energy efficiency and sustainable energy if we are going to save this planet. And it goes without saying that the billionaire class and the large corporations are spending a fortune in opposition to this bill because they love the idea that some of the wealthiest people in this country and the largest corporations in a given year do not pay a nickel in federal income tax. And they're fighting to preserve that absurdity. In other words, we are taking on some of the most powerful special interests in this country who will end up spending huge amounts of money in order to prevent us from doing what we should be doing, protecting the needs of working families, the elderly, the children, the sick, and the poor, and protecting this planet for future generations. Now, Senator Manchin, as I understand it, talked about today about not wanting to see our country become an entitlement society. Well, I am not exactly sure what he means by that. Does that mean that we end the $300 direct payments for working class parents, which have cut childhood poverty in this country as a result of the American Rescue Plan in half? Is protecting working families and cutting childhood poverty an entitlement? Does Senator Manchin think we should once again have one of the highest levels of childhood poverty of any major country on earth? At a time when millions of seniors in Vermont, in West Virginia, all across this country, have teeth in their mouths that are rotting, when they can't afford hearing aids in order to communicate with their grandchildren, and when they can't afford a pair of glasses in order to read a newspaper, does Senator Manchin really believe that seniors are not entitled to digest their food and that they're not entitled to hear and see properly? Is that really too much to ask in the richest country on earth, that elderly people have teeth in their mouth and can see and can hear? Does Senator Manchin not believe that we have to end the absurdity of the United States paying by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, sometimes 10 times more for a particular drug than is paid in Canada or other countries around the world? Does Senator Manchin believe that we should be the only major country on earth not to guarantee paid family and medical leave, and that working mothers should not be able to stay home with a child who is sick? Are workers not entitled to be able to do that? Does Senator Manchin believe that working class parents in West Virginia and Vermont should not have to pay? Does he believe that they should have to pay 25 or 30% of their incomes on childcare all over this country? Working class families are paying 25 or 30% of their incomes on childcare so that they could go out and do their jobs. Are the children of this country not entitled to high-quality childcare and pre-K education? Does Senator Manchin not believe that working families in this country are entitled to affordable housing, and that we should not have some 600,000 people in America, including many veterans, sleeping out on the streets? Does Senator Manchin not believe that at a time when we have a major labor shortage in many parts of this country, because our young people lack the skills they need, that they are not entitled to at least 2 years of free community college so they can get the training in order to go out and get the good-paying jobs that are there? And perhaps most importantly, does Senator Manchin not believe what the scientists are telling us, that we face an existential threat regarding climate change, and that it is absolutely imperative that we move boldly to cut carbon emissions? Scientists have told us we're on a red alert. Some of you know a number of scientists received the Nobel Prize for their work on climate change. Does Senator Manchin not believe that our children and grandchildren are entitled to live in a country and a world that is healthy and is habitable?
Wow. So yeah, Senator Bernie Sanders, he goes on for a while there, but he's really blasting I mean his own fellow Democratic Senator Joe Manchin. Remember, he's a Democrat as well. He's really, really putting him on blast there. Um, Normally, Bernie doesn't kind of really talk about his own fellow Democrats uh, that much. I mean, he'll do it against Republicans, um, but that's one of the worser ones I've seen him do there. He really kind of put Joe Manchin on blast there. I would kind of say it there. Let me know your thoughts. He's really putting the pressure on Senator Joe Manchin there. We're kind of at a crucial stage now on negotiations. Senator Joe Manchin has said that he would be willing to come up from 1.5 trillion to now 1.9 to 2.2 trillion dollars. So going from 1.5 trillion to 2.2 trillion would be about an increase of about 50%. So literally in about a week, he went from 1.5 trillion of his top line number, saying he wouldn't go past 1.5 trillion, to now 1.9 to 2.2 trillion. So 1.5 to 2.2 trillion is about an increase of 50%. Now we have Pramila Jayapal, the leader of the Progressive Caucus in the House of Representatives. She's the leader of about 100 Democrats, saying, that's not quite good enough. She wants 2.5 trillion to 2.9 trillion. But nonetheless, Joe Manchin has come up. If you take 2.2 trillion, if he says he's willing to do 2.2 trillion, as if they just take the deal at 2.2 trillion, that would still be a 50% increase of what he was at. So um, we'll have to see where this lies. But Joe Manchin is still getting blasted by his own fellow Democrats. So we're really at a very crucial part of the negotiations, because if they agree on a top line number, then they can move forward and put together the pieces of the package, as long as they pass a debt limit agreement. Remember, that's kind of the nuclear option there. They have to do that, or else everything else stops. If the government and the country defaults, nothing else really matters. So I think they're going to have a deal. Remember, that deal's only for 2 months. They're going to have to pass the stimulus package in the meantime. And I think the Democrats are going to have to swallow some pride there and then raise the debt limit again in the interim there, and pass the debt limit again during that 2 month period before December, and pass the debt limit through the reconciliation process, which is how they passed the stimulus package. The Democrats didn't want to do that, but I think the Republicans are going to force them to do that. So I'll keep you up to date on this entire process. The debt limits raising past the bill, they still need to do that. The stimulus package, the infrastructure package, and pretty much everything you need to know about. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe down below. It's completely free to do so. Literally just click subscribe. You can also click the bell icon after subscribing that will appear to get notifications when we go live, which is every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can also click the share button down below to share this video with your friends and family, so that they know what is going on with our country and these packages as well. You can click this video here to watch my newest stimulus check video next. And this video is about 2 or 3 different Social Security raises that are on the horizon as well. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.